but we.
That should be Tara's catchphrase. We need a T-shirt. The T-shirt star thing is gonna say, "Don't come at us." Don't come at us.
Interwebs. Don't come.
Because I feel like that's said everything. We're like, okay.
I know. Every time I say something slightly on the verge, I'm gonna cause some big controversy. So I feel.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Syn Wagon. I'm Jessica Pearson. With me, I have the lovely Tara Shannon.
Hello.
Sam Stone.
Hey.
And Mikayla Menzies.
What's up?
Our special guest for the day.
Ooh, we have a special guest. How exciting is that?
On episode 3, we're kind of killing it. I'm just saying. Like, what is this? We're famous already? Yes, we are. It's the morning, so we switched wine for teas and coffee.
Or is it wine in a mug?
Who knows?
Never know.
Is there Bailey's in here? You'll never know.
You will never. Well, wait until you get through the episode. Maybe you'll be able to
make
tell.
it very apparent.
So today we thought we'd talk about basically CDs versus vinyls in that sense. So we've come to an age in the world where what the heck do people buy music-wise? How do people listen to their music? And we thought this would be such a great topic to use with Mikayla because Mikayla has such a unique brand that's very old school, which I love. And so let's talk about this. What do you guys feel? How do you guys feel the music industry is going when it comes to CDs, vinyls, all that kind of fun stuff?
Well, I have so many children that my eldest listened to music on cassettes. Through my children, they've all listened to music in different mediums.
That's so cool. I love where this is going.
Right? So Adam, who's almost 30, listened to his music on cassettes and then into CDs.
Oh my gosh.
And then through like Jordan, Nick, it went to like, that was the Napster where it was like stolen music, which was always like a huge conversation in my house.
Yep.
And I think LimeWire and all that.
Oh, yes.
We know LimeWire.
All the computer viruses that I got from
LimeWire.
Like,
Totally.
so
All those naughty videos you never asked for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was terrible. Yeah. And then burning CDs or ripping CDs, that kind of thing, into MP3s, which would have been like, Kiara. So I have 7 kids if you're watching for the first time. That's why this list is so long. And then Madison streams. Yeah. So in the 15 years of having babies, that's how quickly the medium of music changed, which is so crazy because for my audience, which is older, it gets more complicated for people with an older demographic. If you have a young demographic, it's pretty vinyl and streaming seems to be what the popular thing is. Yeah. But for my audience, some of them are still listening to CDs and they're just starting to figure out, like they were just getting a handle of MP3s on iTunes, and now it's changed again, and it's like streaming. And so I always have to think. I usually do small batches of CDs like really small batches, and people will buy the CDs even if they don't listen to them.
Oh, yes.
Because I don't have a single way anywhere here to listen to a CD. I don't even think my car has a CD.
I know, me too.
I don't think it has a CD player.
Yeah, because I was going to say I listen to it in the car.
Yeah.
My car doesn't have a CD player.
Yeah, my car either. And like I feel like at a certain age, the cars just took them out, which was so maddening because again, I'm the same way. The only way that I listened to CDs was in the car.
Yeah.
But that's gone now.
I used to have that like big black envelope thing that you'd put
all the
CDs in,
put all your CDs.
and then I'd keep that in the glove box, and I'd be like, "What CD do I want to listen to today?" And then one time my car got broken into,
and that's what they
and
stole.
that's what they stole.
No.
And it was. I still remember. It was devastating. I still haven't recovered. Very traumatic.
Well, the collection.
So I have all the jewels at home, all the CD cases
no CDs.
at home in like a CD tower, but there's no CDs because they were all in that thing in my car.
Yeah. Well, and I remember
so
like
upsetting.
the time to be like, you like would organize that and you'd put all your CDs in a specific order because you knew like, okay, long drives, you knew like you wanted easy flips. You had them either by genre or by like, well, if you got really OCD, alphabetical or color wise. Like you could go so far in how you organize
and
that.
some like higher end cars at that time, not that I own one, had like disc changers too.
Yes.
Like you could put 5 CDs in and have it on shuffle.
Okay.
And it was always so fun. It's like, what 5 CDs? Like, do you want them to be of a similar vibe?
Yes.
Or do you want, which I guess is like the initial playlist.
That's right.
You know?
Oh, yeah. But,
the
okay,
mood.
the scariest thing about that, though, I had the hand-me-down car through both of my sisters, and by the time it got to me, like, it was worn and torn, hardcore. But, like, about a couple months in, it stopped working, the thing. So I lost... like 5 CDs. They were just, but they were there. But I couldn't get to them.
Oh, that's
so
the
that
worst.
was also really sad. I was like, oh no.
So when I bought my first car, this is how old I am, I bought it with rolled up loonies. It was a $500 car from a wholesaler. From my rolled up loonies and quarters from my bartending job.
Wow.
And my dad found me this Ford Escort on the wholesale for $500, okay? And so this is how I started my first little music school called Music Matters. And I would drive to your house and bring piano lessons because we lived in the country. So it was hard for parents to bring. So that's this whole thing. Yeah. Anyways, it had an 8-track player. And it came with the best 8 tracks. So do you guys know what 8 tracks are?
Yes, but I didn't live through like having any.
Oh my God, they're the best. So I had Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell.
Oh, yes.
Supertramp, best of Supertramp. And Billy Joel. It was so great. And it came with these 8 tracks, which was awesome. And so that was a very short-lived period. It was 8 tracks.
Yeah.
And then obviously vinyl was what I grew up with. That's how we listened to music. Which was
also used to have one of, I remember also one of the first vehicles, probably I didn't own, but like it was my parents'. I was in it. It had a cassette player in it, no CD player. But my dad had this device where it was like you put the cassette player in and it had like a little wire running from the cassette and you plugged like your Discman into that. So you play the CDs on the Discman and it would feed into the cassette
car.
and play that way through the car.
Oh, yeah.
And that's like when things were
Walkmans.
Yeah, like the
Oh,
CD
Walkmans.
Walkmans.
Yeah.
Like
I remember
would
you'd
burn
have the full
CDs and just like carry them around.
But you had to be so careful walking to school with it because like if it would skip, so you're like holding it and like walking and like trying
twisting
so
your
hard.
headphone jack.
Yes,
Like
twisting headphone jack. Why is
stay.
it? I'm only getting the left side.
I remember like having the Discman and shoving it in like my pocket or like the back of my pants and jogging with it, but then it would skip because you're jogging or doing whatever you're doing.
Well, mine was a cassette, obviously. It was a cassette player. And the other thing we would do too growing up was when we couldn't afford to buy music, because back then people paid for music, and you had to earn money and pay for music. We would. That's a whole other therapy session about that. So we would sit. My girlfriends and I would sit in our room with a cassette player with a blank cassette in it, and we would listen to the countdown. And when the song we wanted came on, we would press record and record the ambient sound in the room. So we would have our favorite song.
I actually used to do that too.
Did you really?
My dad like taught me how to do that, and when I was pretty young, and I would do that to like record my favorite songs and have them.
Exactly.
Did you guys ever do? There was like some sort of monthly subscription where you would pay like $20 a month, and every month you'd get like before the end of the month, they'd send you like a catalog kind of, and it would have every like all the new upcoming CDs or old CDs, and then you get, let's say for $20 a month, you'd get to pick like 5. And my dad would always let like my sister and I each pick one, and then he'd pick the other 3.
Oh yeah.
And then you pick which ones you want, you pay your $20, and then these 5 new CDs get shipped to your house. And it was like Christmas every month.
I can't remember what it was called, but I remember the catalog clear as day.
Okay, I never got that catalog.
No, me
I'm
neither.
mad.
Yeah, your parents are probably hiding it from you.
Where's my catalog?
But that goes to show what the other thing that's changed with how we listen to music is the time factor, because you had to wait.
Yes.
You had to wait your order. I had to stand. You had to wait till the albums came into the store. You had to stand in line outside Sam the Record Man.
Yeah.
And and then you took your time flipping through.
And you listened to the whole
And you listened to the
album.
whole thing. We would take. I never forget.
And you'd read every liner
and the
note.
lyrics
And
you
and just
flip through
pulling
the
it
book
out.
and,
It was like an event.
Yeah.
And now, this is how we get our music. It's like, instead of it being like a 5-course meal, it's like drive-through McDonald's.
Yeah, pretty
So
much.
you're watching a show on TV, you love the song, you grab your phone, Shazam, okay, click, now you have the song.
And then you go back to watching TV.
And then you go back to watching TV.
You don't even enjoy the whole song.
You know, and then you listen to it later.
Oh my God, I love that metaphor of it being a drive-through
it's
McDonald's.
true.
Versus a 5-course meal. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and everyone's like,
true.
but it's cheaper, but it's faster, and it's like, yeah, but you lose the experience.
Yeah.
It's
You
a
know,
different
sometimes
experience.
it's obviously it takes more time, and you spend more money going to a nicer restaurant, let's say.
Yeah.
But it's you go and you do that for the experience of it.
Yeah.
Exactly. The
And maybe the
service.
taste too and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
but
so we consume music in a totally different way.
very like frivolously.
We've devalued music, in my opinion. Please don't
Yes.
come at me, internet. But we've
That should be Tara's catchphrase.
Catchphrase.
We need a T-shirt. The T-shirt star thing is gonna say, "Don't come at
Don't
us,
come at
internet.
internet,
Don't come at us,
interwebs, don't come.
Because I feel like that's said everything. We're like, okay.
I know, every
Don't
time I
come
say
at us.
something slightly on the verge of going to cause some big conversations. So I feel that we've devalued music.
Yeah.
On one side, I feel we've devalued it. But on the other side, it's also amazing. There's also an amazing part of
Yeah.
it because, I mean, think about it. You can access and millions and millions and millions and millions of songs for like $9 a month or something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so then it becomes about this sort of oversaturation, and then how do you find songs, which is now why we're into curating. We don't curate based on artists or their work; they curate based on mood.
Yes.
So we're finding our new artists through a mood playlist. Like literally, it's like I feel sometimes when I go on these streaming platforms, it's like cleaning my house, driving my
they're
car,
so specific.
right? Like
Yeah.
it's like the mood. It's so fascinating to me that that's how we engage with music now is
Yeah.
based on a mood.
Oh, 100%. And like I find it like you can literally look up whatever you're feeling. Like,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You can be like angry, sad. You can get very specific. Go through a thesaurus, figure out a different word for all your emotions and put it in there,
Yeah.
and it will have something for you.
Yeah.
But I think it's also allowed a lot of creators to we can get more creative with it. Like again, like to find your music or find the song. It was on radio. That's how you heard it, or through a movie or TV. And like even then, you'd have to wait for the album to come out. So now it's way more accessible, but to the population, but also to the artists to be able to get their songs out. And songs that you will never ever hear on the radio are making money. Because they're basically filling a hole almost in the sense of playlists and music.
It's a lot wider. Radio was very narrow
Yes.
in but the role of radio used to be really to break artists, and that's less and less true now.
Yeah.
I think country music really is the only place where you'll hear, really new art. Maybe AAA, AC, a little bit here and there, but it's not where young people go to discover their
No,
artists.
like
That's for
especially like
sure.
Spotify artists, like the ones that are getting like hundreds of millions of streams. Like radio's not even a thought.
No, I know.
Like at all.
And Mikayla, or with you being the youngest one here, this could give some perspective of like what's your relationship or what has your relationship been to like listening to radio in your life? Like, do you ever listen to radio?
I don't really. Like as soon as I get into my car, I plug my phone in. I just listen to Spotify or I don't listen to radio really, to be honest. There was this really funny thing that happened. So my phone broke, and so I didn't have a phone. And so it was getting fixed, and I was like, okay, like I don't want to listen to radio. So I like dug up all of my old CDs to listen to.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, this is like, because I can listen to the whole thing and it's people I like. So I was like, radio wasn't even a thought. I was like, oh, let me pull out my CDs. From
It's like streaming right to CD.
There's no in between.
There's a radio
But why?
station?
But that's interesting though. So why were you like, oh, I don't want to listen to radio? What's your impression of radio?
I feel like it was just like, because I don't know, like I just didn't think about it. I was like, oh, it's just going to be all like pop, like very just mainstream. Because like I don't really listen to like mainstream pop or like mainstream country or mainstream rock. Like it's all very like indies or underground people or like things like that. So it was like, I don't know, I just had the thought, I was like,
It wasn't appealing to you.
no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I always find too, when it comes to radio, like I end up like going through all the channels and just being like, where's the music? Because it comes into like just commercial territory, or it depends on what time of the day you're driving.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like the morning, you're going to have the morning shows, which is great. But now we have podcasts.
Yes.
Yeah.
So unlike us right here, that are also so accessible.
Yes.
Again,
Yeah.
on all streaming platforms, right? You don't
Yeah.
have to have a podcast app. So if I want to listen to people talk, I'm going to go to a podcast that I find very interesting and learn something, or go to interviews or something like that, right? Like it's not, I can find that conversation piece someplace else.
And I feel like our generation is so used to everything being on demand. Like we're in a way, I mean, again, internet, don't come at me, because I was going to say, we're so in control of what we consume. Are we?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
That's true.
how much are we targeted by ads and all this data and stuff? So that's why I'm like, okay, I'm not naive to think that, you know, I'm really totally choosing everything I consume and buy in my life. But we're so used to, you're at the mercy of the radio. So like what you're describing is like whatever they're playing, that's what you need to listen to, whatever they're talking about on the morning show.
Yeah,
and you're like, I'd love to hear people talk, but I want to hear them talk about the things I'm really interested in right now. And we're so used to being able to find that at a search and a click.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the whole vinyl thing, you know, just touching on it, because your whole artist thing is very, you know, old school, and you know, your own flair and art. You're so good at that. Like your artistry, both on stage in your songs and then in your, you know, your whole way that you display yourself, you know, your art in the digital space. And I love that, you know, this whole trend we have about vinyl. But the sound engineer in me is slightly conflicted, because vinyl, like actual vinyl, you know, you recorded on 2-inch tape. It was all analog. We didn't even have the word analog then, because there was nothing else. So we didn't call it analog. It was just recording. We call it analog now because we have digital. So in most cases, and not all cases, you're not, if you're recording a 2-inch tape and then spitting that on vinyl, then you are truly getting that analog experience all the way through the signal path and stuff. But if really it goes into a digital environment, and then it's spit out on vinyl. So it's like there is an argument for is the sound really warmer or whatever? But I think it's less about that and more about the connection to the feeling of vinyl and valuing
the
music,
experience of
listening to it that
and you
way.
pay so much more for it.
That's
like
right.
you go in, like, I mean, I guess you can probably get a record for like $20 to $30, but like the newer ones that are coming out are like $50.
Yeah.
And it comes with like posters and like, and they have like different colored vinyls for different, like, so it's like, it's just the experience when people are crazy.
And also going back to what you said at the top of this, talking about people buy your CDs even though they don't intend on listening to them.
Yeah.
They're buying a CD or potentially buying a vinyl also just to support the artist.
Yeah.
I think like music lovers who go to a live show and they're really invested in an artist and a true fan, they just want to help however they can. And a lot of people don't recognize like how little artists get from streams and stuff, but a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And they think like this is a way like I can directly contribute and support this artist directly, and I know like the money's going directly back to them.
And it has a collector's vibe about it too.
Yeah.
Like it's a piece of the collection of the artist.
Well, and how crazy is it that, again, we started talking about how, you know, you have the CD, you wait in line, you buy it, you get home, like you go through the whole like case, you look at all the lyrics, you put it on and you actually sit and you listen. We didn't have phones. You know? You weren't on your phone doing it. You were in the experience. We come to an age where every single thing is at our fingertips, right? Like, again, like I didn't have the time where you like put on, you would order Netflix. Like, you know, you would get 5 movies in the mail and then you return Netflix. Like, again, I'm pretty sure my parents were hiding that catalog too. A little mad. But we didn't come to that. And now it's like everything. You can binge a TV show. You can watch a movie. Mid-episode, if you're like, nah, I'm not feeling it, you watch something else. Same with songs. You can literally skip. I'm a hardcore skipper. But we are, I feel like the new age of music is coming back to the experience, right? Like you said, it's more expensive, but you get the whole poster on the inside. It's the sound, it's the connection, right? We're coming back to a sense of, right? Even like cameras.
Yeah.
Like we're coming back
The
to
film
like,
photos.
the
and
film photos.
Because there's really nothing like film. Like you can slap a filter on it and like do it and like make it look like it, but the actual experience of shooting on film is so different because you have to wait to get it developed. And then you're like, oh, I forgot that this happened and we took this picture and like.
And like last night we were playing a show, we were doing a songwriting round, and Mikayla's like, oh, let's take a photo before we go on. So me and Mikayla snap a shot, and she's like, we're gonna get everyone after, but she snaps it last
And
one.
then it was the last one, so we couldn't.
Oh, because you were snapping with film, like not
yeah,
on your
you're
cell
snapping
phones.
with film,
Okay.
so it was over. So we put it
You're
in
like,
the next
okay,
shot.
we're not getting a group shot.
That's
it.
group. Yeah.
But it's
And how often does that happen? Like, anytime I take a picture of anything now, I mean, I really have to go through my camera roll.
Yeah.
But there's
Oh my
like
gosh.
75 pictures.
Yeah, you're like,
I'm
you have
just
to get the
I'll
right
take a bunch and I'll go
angle
through them
and-
later. And do I really go through? Like,
Never.
we're again so wasteful in that way because we know we can just snap a bunch of pictures, go through them later, figure it out later. Where with film, I mean, and you use film a lot.
Yeah.
How do you find sometimes you're like, is it worth like using? Is this worth like taking a picture?
It becomes more intentional, right? Like, because you're like, okay, like, let's take a picture of this, or I want to remember this. And you just take pictures differently, like of different things. And because then it's like, you can also get them, like, I'll get them printed and then I put them in albums, but you can also get them emailed to you. So you get the scans, and so you can like obviously post it and then also just like have it. But it's fun to like open and like show people like, oh, this is when I was in London, because we like took a bunch of pictures when we were there.
Yeah.
And like, so it's a different experience. And I think people are craving that with like vinyl too, right? Like it's just, you're more intentional because you paid like $50 for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're really gonna listen to that.
Exactly.
For
You're
sure.
gonna sit down and you're gonna experience it.
Yeah.
You know? And I think like too, like I think when I walk into your daughter Maddie's room, like she has all the like Polaroids printed out on it, right? And again, that's an experience. You can now get like these like immediate printers that you can connect to your that are like wireless. You connect to your phone, that you take the photo and then you can print and it immediately prints it.
Yeah.
But it's again like that. It's new software, but it's a way to connect to that sense, right? Like, I love that. You only have a certain amount of photos. So how you think about taking it, like, again, I have like 20 billion duplicates on my phone of random things I'm never going to look through again. I'm never going to look at. Whereas when you do that, it's like, okay, like, I only have 3 photos left. Like, do I really want? Is this something I really want to remember?
And you must take more time, like thinking of how you're framing a photo, because again, with a cell phone, you're like, oh, I'll take one like this, one like this, one like that, move around. Where you're like, I only want to take one photo of this, so maybe you take more time in that moment to be like, like how do I want to capture this?
I love that word intentional, because intentional means you're in the moment.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, and it's the limits that create that. The fact that there's an end, that there's a limit.
Yeah.
So when it is limitless and endless, the way that our phones are and streaming is and everything, so we're less intentional because you don't have to be. You know, it's just there all the time.
Yeah.
And I think there's I watch myself, I study myself, and how do I listen to music, and where and how. And I honestly, I'm just getting into listening to streaming, because I just I would just create my own playlist for my own library, because I still have like a library of music on my phone. And what I find fascinating is how they curate the playlists, like how they're putting things together. So I kind of have mixed feelings about it a little bit, because it's kind of like radio, what we were saying before, is you're not curating it, it's being curated for you, and you're being exposed to it. But you can skip and move, which is cool. And I have found some really cool artists that I would never have heard of if it wasn't for that. So I love that part of it, but I don't love that it doesn't really foster or encourage listeners to really build a relationship with an artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the same way we used to. So you I think it's changing what it is to be a fan of
I think so too, because
someone.
again, like you would buy the album and you'd listen to it from the beginning to end. And then you could, like, once you went through it all, you could be like, oh, I know track 7 is my favorite. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah.
I can remember, and I still do, whenever I hear Shania Twain songs, I know the exact next song that comes on after it. Like the song will play and I'll immediately know that next song. I'll start singing it because I remember going from song to song to song and having that experience. We don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
And then this comes into releasing how we release music, singles versus albums, right? In the sense of you want the singles because you want to work the algorithm and have like songs coming out constantly. Like people aren't going to listen to a full album, but then you're missing like that experience of sitting down and a curated album that has the story within each song, and from song to song to song tells that story too, you know?
Yeah.
And that created a connection with that artist.
Yes.
Where now we don't have that. Well, we don't have it a lot.
It's a different
anymore.
experience.
Yeah, because I always think of it as albums versus singles as like one piece of artwork. So like it would be the same as if I went to a gallery or like an art gallery, and they had like taken one big piece of art and split it up into like 10 different pieces.
Right.
And so let's say I walked in and I saw the top right-hand corner posted somewhere. That in itself like could be very beautiful. Maybe that part of the piece is gorgeous in and of itself. But I may never even know that the other 8 pieces exist.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know? And then one day down the road, I may see all the 9 pieces together and be like, whoa, you know, I really loved piece 1 of 9, but I didn't even know all these other pieces exist. Or now that I've seen all these pieces together, I'm interpreting piece 1 of 9 completely differently.
100%.
So it's the same with albums. Like I still love listening from beginning to end. And I think you get a different version of the story when you consume it that way.
Yeah.
Not to say a single isn't good or that you can't appreciate that either, but it changes everything. Just like with people, you might hear part of someone's story, but then knowing their whole story, whatever that is, or as much as they share with you, changes everything.
They have a different impression, because sequencing of albums is an art.
Oh yeah.
That's an art form, is sequencing the record. So when an artist drops a full record, I want to listen to it from beginning to end in that order. So that stupid shuffle button, the little crisscrossy thing, if I don't notice that it's on, and then I have so I'm like, I want to experience this record
Top to
the way
bottom.
the artist intended from beginning to end, you know? And then maybe then I choose my favorites after or whatever. But
Again, same with an art gallery. If you go to somebody's show, it's set up in a way, like when you walk in, they often will tell you, like, start on the left and work your way through the room. And it's in a certain order for a very specific reason.
Yeah.
If you just were like running around and looking at them in order, it would still be nice. But what you
don't appreciate
likely
the
would
same,
not get the
yeah.
experience the way the artist intended you to.
Yeah, and then it's like reading a book. It's like if you just pick, well, I'm going to start at chapter 25, and then I'm going to go to chapter 3, and then I'm going to jump to chapter 72, and then like you're jumping around, you're getting only bits and pieces. There can still be some cool like elements that you get, but this character wins, but what did they battle? You know what I mean? And like I love it too, which I find a lot of younger artists are starting to do again and bring back, is like the interludes in albums and like these intro parts. Like we were talking about Sabrina Carpenter.
Yes.
And she has that intro song. It's like a minute long, but holy crap, I can listen to that minute over and over and over again. And it brings a whole new definition to every other song.
Well, it sets the tone.
Yeah, it really does.
You're like, hi, I'm new here. I have no idea what I'm in for. Let's say I was brand new to listening to her. But I listened to that 1 minute and I'm like, okay, I have an idea of what journey we're about to go on.
And I love when like albums are, I guess the way to describe it would be like sonically cohesive. Like it all sounds very similar, and it's like the story is like woven into it, and like the aesthetic of it. And like I love when people do eras, and it's very clear that like this album is separate from this work, and like it just like ties it together so beautifully.
So for you as a younger artist, how do you like plan, because right now you're doing singles, how do you want to like release your music? How do you envision yourself releasing music, and are you going to do CDs? Are you going to do vinyl? Are you bringing, like, I know some people are bringing cassettes back, like, you know, like there's so many different ways. So what is your vision really for what you're doing, and how do you see the younger generation kind of bringing on that?
I mean, I think it's a singles world right now.
Yeah.
But I really like when artists release singles and then group it together after. Because it's like you're telling a story, but then you don't realize that it's a story till after. And you're like, hey, wait, this is all part of the same storyline here. And so I think it's like you get both experiences, really.
It's like a murder mystery where you like have all these different
and
pieces,
then you're like,
you're trying to solve it, and then the artist is like, here's the legend. This is how.
Because even that language, like the language around single is connected to radio. That is from the radio space where the record label would choose a standout track and send that to radio as a single. But in the streaming world, it's more like focus tracks. So you're saying focus on this track. I'm delivering my work by focus tracks. And the reason people do that is because you're fighting the AI. You're trying to build a relationship with AI before you even get to humans. Like, so there's this whole other step now in this thing where you're trying to trigger the algorithm to give you more exposure, to have your accounts ranked higher, to have more reach. Like that, the whole thing is absolute madness. Like, to me, it's total madness. And for independent artists especially, because you know, we're trying to do this, and it's all pay-to-play environments.
100%.
So you have to, it's like when people say to me, oh, well, that artist X only has 5,000 streams. I'm like, you're not measuring their audience. You're measuring their access to cash.
Yes.
Like you're measuring, like when you say that, and there's so many assumptions. Like you don't know if they're doing any campaigns, if they have any promotion money, if their audience demographic even uses streaming, like mine. Like, right? Like there's so many factors. So I think artists there's so many challenges to building your audience, because all the things we're talking about, like whether they buy a vinyl, whether they buy a CD and never listen to all these things, all of that is determined by the emotional connection the fan feels with that artist. And so just like any of our relationships, somebody that you're meeting for the first time, there's a certain way we talk to them and we behave with them versus somebody you've been friends with for years, or your mother or your best friend or your spouse. The level of intimacy in our relationships, determines that connection. And so your fans go through all of the same levels. So somebody who's brand new to you, who may have heard your song on a playlist somewhere and is kind of interested, sort of interested, versus somebody who's been with you the whole journey, they'll buy the vinyl without even, thinking twice about it. So how you get your music into the world is so interlinked with who is your audience and what are the stages that your fans are at.
100%. And then you come into as well, like, so you're releasing focus tracks. A cool thing that I find people are doing as well is they're telling a story with each focus track. Kind of like what you're saying, right? They can tell a story now on social media through each track and how they release it, in what order. And it can be a completely different order on the full album or the full compilation of all those songs. But it is that. It all depends on your audience.
Yeah,
like,
and you're giving it
audience.
room to breathe too, right?
Yes.
So you're giving it like time for it to like settle in. It's like you're letting people go through the drive-through.
Exactly.
And then like, 'cause they don't have time to like sit in the restaurant and listen to the whole thing.
You're like, okay,
The
first one is, hey, you've decided to come to the McDonald's drive-thru. Welcome. Here we are. And then the next track is, let's take your order. This is the options we have. And then the third one is, let's take your money now. Thank you for coming enough. And then you get to, here's the delivery, and here's more than you bargained for, right? It's like, here's a
we put an extra Happy Meal toy in for free.
Exactly. The extra songs are the Happy Meal toy. And then you leave a satisfied customer. But again, it is that sense, how many times do you listen to it? Like, there's certain singles and artists that come out that I'll hear the first song of, and if I love it, I'll go and find that artist.
Exactly.
And I'll want to hear what else they have. Like, is this a part of an album? Is this just a single? What other stuff do they have going on?
Yeah.
And if I really love that, like, I'll be like, okay, like, I'm ready. Like, I'm following them. I'm ready for the next song to come out, you know?
Yeah. And I've had so many conversations with artists about this vinyl thing. They're like, okay, well, we're going to get vinyl. I'm like, okay. Like, what's the investment on that? You know, and it's thousands and thousands of dollars.
Like,
it's
for
so
sure.
expensive. And I'm like, okay, who's waiting for these vinyls? Well, nobody. I don't have an audience yet. Okay. So why are you spending all of this money? Well, because it's cool and we're supposed to have vinyls. No, there is no supposed to.
No, yeah.
The only thing you need to be focusing on first is your audience. Building your audience and balancing that with how your music is available. But when artists sort of get into this, it's like, I can't describe it anything. It's like, it feels like a chase. It's like they're chasing. They're like, oh, that's going to be the solution.
Right.
Or that if I do this, that's going to be the thing that's going to break me open or whatever, or break me into the world. And none of that doesn't happen like that anymore. It's slow and steady. Yeah. It's very small, building your pockets of audience for indies anyways. If you're signed to a major, it's a different ball game. Yeah. So, you know, when you're choosing how to put your music out into the world, ask yourself first, who's listening to my music? Like who is going to be listening to this? And if your demo is younger, you don't necessarily need to spend a whole bunch of money on vinyl quite yet. Sure. You know, or do a special run after it's been proven. Like after you put it out on the cheap ways, which is you're not going to make money, but it's market testing.
Yeah. Exactly.
You're going to see your data. You're going to see who's listening to it. How old are they, male or female? What countries? You know, and then do a run.
Like, make one or two, make it like a special thing.
Exactly.
But,
I had two conversations last night actually with two separate artists, kind of about this, because going back to what you just said about, you know, artists get really excited and they're like, I'm going to order all these vinyls. And you're like, okay, great. Who's going to buy these?
Yeah.
I think any artist can relate to the fact that it's exciting to get that kind of like physical stuff done, you know, and whether you feel like it legitimizes your project or what you're doing, or whether it's just like exciting to have something like tangible. Yeah. You know, we can get ahead of ourselves sometimes, like, I'm going to get this merch or that merch, and it's fun and exciting. So I think artists, and then you're the one who's like,
I know, you're like, but like, buy them.
why are you
doing this? Have extra money to just sit there, because that's always what you say. So you have all these shirts. You just think of this. That's thousands of dollars just sitting in your house. That you can't use.
And so one of the conversations I had last night was, there was an artist in the round with you last night who was selling merch that was brand new. Oh, actually.
Oh, you're repping it today.
Repping it today as I'm talking about it. Okay, so they were talking about how their previous project, because they've changed artist names and direction of their project and the type of music and genre and stuff. And they were talking about how there's like 3 boxes of CDs of her previous project that they don't know what to do with it. Yeah. Exactly. Just sitting there, and we were trying to come up with ideas of
like recycling ideas or something.
Yeah, because it's like wasteful, and they feel bad that it's just sitting there. Forget the money piece, because obviously there's that aspect of things, that money isn't being recouped. But basically had all these CDs pressed, then the pandemic hit, and then during the pandemic is when they went through this shift of changing their project. So they've been thinking a lot about like sustainability and all this stuff. So they took a screen screening class, which I'm like screen printing, print.
I don't
screening,
remember
which one
it is.
One of those things. And now they're making T-shirts on their own, and just like before a show, just doing like 10 and only bringing 10, and then if those sell, do a few more, so that they don't have them just sitting there doing nothing, not only from a cost perspective, but from like an environmental perspective too, of it just not being wasted. Or let's say they come up with a cool idea of something they want to add tomorrow. It's not like, okay, well, I can't do that till I sell these 700 I ordered that are in a box.
Well, and exactly. And it's that sense too of there's a couple things. First off, we've come to a stage where we can now do that ourselves. Like we were in a place where that we didn't have that. This is now another opportunity for her to make money. As another avenue is, hey, I have this screen printing now. If like I can print for other artists that are like on like that demand site. But then also like you want a shirt? Well, I don't have your size, but like I can get one for you. Yeah. Right? It's like that creating that I only have this amount. You know, you hear that and you're like, oh my God, they only have this amount. Like I need to buy one right now.
Supply and demand.
That's supply and demand. It's better for the environment.
Yeah.
It's
Even you were like that on stage last night.
Oh, 100%.
They were explaining that they had 6 shirts there.
And medium.
And on stage, Jess was like, do you have a medium? I call it right now. In the middle of the show, you were like, that medium is mine.
I was like, I'll fight you about murder. Watch out. If anyone buys that medium, I'm coming for you.
I will fight you.
Exactly.
And I play dirty.
I love that it's moving in that direction. I think that's amazing. And I think there's two, because what always fascinates me is if we didn't make music and we made, let's say, I don't know, something benign, like if we made spoons. Okay, that's what we made. It would be automatic for us, like anybody making anything else other than art. You would automatically be thinking, who needs a spoon? Right? Like you would, it's natural, or shoes. Let's say it's shoes.
Yeah.
You would know that if the shoe you're designing or building is a stiletto, you would know that you don't go to Foot Locker to pitch the stiletto. Right? Like there's like basic common sense around consumerism because we are consumers. For whatever reason, when it comes to music, all logic leaves the building, all of it.
Oh, yeah.
And so for people, it makes sense to, get 1,000 CDs or whatever, because they get fixated on, well, I save money. If I order 1,000 CDs, I'm going to save money. Okay, great. If you have 10,000 people waiting for the CDs, fantastic. But people forget that, that having the merch doesn't build the audience.
Yeah.
And having the merch doesn't equate to sales.
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't matter how many you have. If you don't have people there ready to buy it,
that's right.
Then they're just going to collect dust.
I think what happens, and I mean, tell me, we're all artists, so is that there's I think you touched on this before. It's a validation feeling. It's like if I have vinyls, I'm cool. If I have CDs, then I'm a real artist.
Yes.
If I have T-shirts, then I'm truly an artist. Like there's a validator somehow, or it gives you a sense of credibility,
100%.
which is it's so backwards, because then you just implode on yourself.
Because then no one's buying it.
Because nobody,
no one is buying it.
What am I going to do with all of
but
these
it's like,
boxes of CDs?
look, mom, I'm really an artist because I have all this stuff.
We work with artists every day, and we've seen artists who design, order, and have their merch before they've even ever gone into the studio to record anything.
Right.
And you're like, who are you making this for? Like, of course it's cool, and if you want to make one for yourself, have at her. But what are you doing with these?
Like, what is the reason for
what
this?
is the reason for? Like, you don't have any music out.
Yeah.
So what are you selling, and where are you selling this?
And it's like
who's
a
buying
creative
it?
outlet. It's because we're creators as artists. So we get, juiced up thinking about the T-shirts, and because it's a creative outlet, which is awesome. So you just have to balance it with a bit of business thinking. And that's, if you have endless amounts of cash, no problem. Do it backwards. Do it that way, however you want. The problem is when you don't have endless amounts of cash, because then your $5,000 you spent on whatever merch is sitting there. If you had taken that money and done smart campaigns, digital marketing campaigns, and built your audience, you would now have people to sell it to.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or be stressed about paying your producer or engineer, but you put money into merch before, and you're like, I can't finish the project yet because I need more money.
I needed T-shirts.
I need a T-shirt. Need more.
Exactly. Okay, so kind of ending this beautiful conversation about merch, basically. Please tell me, each of you, if you could, if every single outlet of like getting your music out there was still around and everyone used them, what would be the main one that you would want to would you want to release your music? Like, which way? CD, vinyl, streaming in singles, 8 tracks, cassettes, a made-up version for the future. Like, how, like, what way
Dental
would you
implants.
Dental implants.
Music in the bone structure.
Oh, hey, they were those toothbrushes. That's like music, and you brush your teeth, and like,
It's like a Tara Shannon toothbrush.
Has
your face on it.
Holy crap, that made me feel good going to sleep at night.
Tooth tunes. That's what they were called. Tooth tunes.
We need to make
man.
tunes,
Where'd
but it's
that
just our
go?
podcast.
That's such smart. It's still a smart
That's
thing.
so
I don't know
smart.
where they went.
I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
it's
cool.
so smart because sometimes I'll have like a Netflix show or music playing on my phone, you know, when I'm like getting ready in the bathroom or something. And when I go to brush my teeth with my electric toothbrush, I have to pause it.
Yeah,
If
I
it's
don't
something I don't want to miss,
Hey,
because as the toothbrush is in my mouth, I can't hear it.
Exactly.
So I agree. They can have a Bluetooth so it syncs.
Yes,
Your
toot-toot.
toothbrush syncs with your
love
phone, and you don't miss a second of the song.
I love it.
And also, it makes sure that you brush long enough.
Exactly.
I think that was the original.
Yeah, like the
intent.
whole song.
So like the
3
whole
minutes.
song.
That's
Okay,
right,
but
yeah.
let's be honest.
Okay.
I'd have no teeth left. I would just brush them out. And I'd just be like, oh, but the song's so good. I
Yeah,
can't
a
stop
whole
it.
album. I gotta listen to the
Your
whole
gums
album.
start bleeding. You're like,
Stop.
Oh, God. Okay.
Okay.
Mikayla, save us.
Mikayla.
I honestly would probably do CDs.
Yeah.
Like I loved CDs growing up. Like I was a huge Hilary Duff fan.
Oh, yes.
So like I would flip through all the lyrics, and I think at one point Taylor Swift had little Polaroids in her CDs too. So something like that. Like I just like the physical, and I like the idea of someone walking around with a Walkman listening to me, and like
I love it.
yeah, or
Okay,
cassettes too. Like
Yeah.
that would be cool. Very
Okay,
80s
Sam.
movie.
Okay, I'm gonna go futuristic, just
I
as a
love
fun
this.
idea. I mean, I'd say like CDs or vinyls, but
Yeah.
instead I'm gonna say futuristic, that it would be, you'd purchase whatever you purchase and it would be like hologram pop-up. So like you'd get someone's album and you'd like put this device on your floor, and it was like, they'd like pop up and basically like live performance of the album.
Like
to
Sam
you.
Stone in your room.
Oh my God. I want a holographic Sam Stone in my room. That's what I want.
So you basically get like a live performance album, and they're like right in your living room.
That's badass.
That's really cool. So if anybody out there designs that, I think it
Copyright.
exists.
It
I think there was like a
Well, the
concert
hologram
that was
exists,
like
yeah.
there's hologram
But I don't think it's
concerts now.
accessible to
to
people.
the regular people.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But you heard it here first on the Syn Wagon. If it starts to come to market,
Yes, heck yes,
we
heck yes.
expect a royalty cut. and by we,
Yeah, for sure. We're in this together. We're a team.
we're all in the wagon
Our
together.
wins
Yeah.
are together.
We're
Our
all
losses
in
are
the
together.
wagon.
Yeah, we're all in the
wagon
wagon
together.
together.
We're in, on, and around. Okay, Tara, you.
I would have to say vinyl. I think.
Yeah.
I think it's just because my happiest memories listening to music were always on vinyl. And so, like when I think about my childhood and with my cousins sitting around listening to music, or just being in my parents' living room and going through their vinyls. So I think for me, that's what I would do. And most of my audience all grew up with vinyls.
They'll appreciate
So
it. They've been
appreciate that.
waiting.
So they know.
It's hard for me to turn off my business brain with that
yeah.
question, because I go right to business brain.
Yeah,
right?
you're like, okay, well, what's my
I'm
audience?
like, what's
How
the
would
division of
I-
my demo, and who would need? Technically, I would need 20% CDs and 30% vinyls. Like that's the whole conversation going on in my brain. But for the artistic sense of it, vinyl for sure for me.
Okay, for myself, I would also want to go vinyl, but I would want to go like old school, like you're kind of like that, like Grammy award
gramophone?
thing, the gramophone.
Oh yeah,
I would want that. Like I'd want the big thing. Like that's what I would want it to come on.
That fits
and
you.
Like,
That makes all of the sense.
oh, it makes.
Oh my God, you would have loved this. As a total side note, I went to visit a producer in Montreal for one of our artists that we work with, and we walked into his house, and he had this suitcase record player that you opened, and it was like the gramophone. It was, because that is the speaker part, because he was going on a boat with his brother who's a marine biologist, and he was collecting his favorite vinyls to bring on this boat. So it's this suitcase that you open, and it's a gramophone, and you put the albums on there. You would have died.
You buy it. I want it.
It was so cool.
I want that. So I want that. But if we're going futuristic, I would love like a pop-up book album where it's like you open up the book and you open it up and it's like a pop-up of like all the paper and stuff, but the song plays.
Oh, cool.
So it's like you get like the pop-up book and then you like flip to the next page after the song's done. And you're like, oh.
Well, that exists now in children's books. There are pop-up books like that now with music in them.
I know, but it needs to be a good sound. Like
Yeah.
the sound is like
that's the futuristic
it's like
part.
Or you could do it that it's connected to like your AirPod.
Yes.
So you get like the good
Bluetooth
sound,
signal,
but you'd have the visual presentation
exactly.
of everything,
Yeah.
and the song would switch when the page turns. Like it would have the technology to know that.
I also wish, you know how like you can get like whenever you buy a DVD, like, which again we don't do.
I just bought a DVD. Well, my sister bought a DVD player a couple months ago because we had no way to play DVDs or CDs.
Yeah, me either. But you know how like you could sometimes get like the director's commentary. Like I would love for people to do that with an album, in the sense of you have the first album that's released, and then there's like the second one, copywritten. We're doing it here first.
Okay, some people do that. Like Sarah Bareilles has that for like her The Waitress, the album for all the music she wrote for Waitress. She has her own version release of all the Waitress songs, and then she has another release that she talks and explains, like tells a story behind every song.
Like I would love that, where it's like, and there's like some music in the background. So like the first track, it's like your interlude where it's like talking about the making of it, and then it goes into the song. You know, it's like a podcast musical.
Yeah, I know some people put like voice memos into their albums now, like streaming. So it'll be like, oh, like this song was like how it was written, and like
here's the work tape, my voice memo work tape.
Yeah, so they like added at the bottom. I'm like, that's so cool.
I love
They
that.
add it, like they embed it into the track itself, so you hear it when it's streamed.
That, and then also just at the bottom, it'll be
Like so it'd be all the tracks
be, like,
of the
all the
album, and then there's like
tracks, and
bonus
it'll be, like,
tracks, but
it'll
all
be,
voice
like,
memo
the-
bonus tracks.
like
it's kind of
exclusive
like
version,
an audio version of the liner notes. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, that's cool.
I know, it's super cool because you get to hear it. It's just like acoustic, whatever, and you're like,
I
this
love
is
that.
cool.
That's awesome.
Oh, such so many creative, and I think that's that shows that no matter what the medium is or the popular trend of the decade or the generation, or whatever, creativity will always supersede it.
Oh yeah.
People are
100%.
always finding creative ways to use whatever they have access to.
Yeah.
And that's the amazing thing about music and art in general.
Art in general, like there's always gonna be something new. Whenever we're like, oh, like this is new, this is new, this is new. Everyone's gonna be able to take their own take on it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's like what's beautiful about art, is that it's always changing, always growing, but it's so unique to each individual person. Not just the music, but the presentation, the photos, the everything. You know?
And I think that's such a good reminder for me, because when I have my label hat on, my brain goes into that sort of, mathematical space where I'm always looking at ROI and how much money. But really, you should always be deciding your releases and what you do from an art standpoint, always. Not just fodder for the algorithms, because it is your art you're putting in the world. And I think the energy and time and purity and creativity you put into it, so the time that you put into it gets reflected and mirrored back. And I think you'll call fans into your experience that will mirror that love that you have.
Exactly. It's all that love and all that, right?
It's
your
your
energy,
art.
it's your art.
Yeah.
And it is, and I think that's very true. I think like when you can be so open and vulnerable and creative in that space, like people are drawn to that. Whether it doesn't matter if it's commercial or not, in that sense of music, like, or if it's something you've seen before.
Or doing it even though nobody's listening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the hard part.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us on the Syn Wagon. We got Mikayla Menzies, our special guest, Sam Stone, and Tara Shannon. What's our tagline, Tara?
And Jess Pearson.
And
Jessica
me. I forgot.
Pearson.
I'm Jess Pearson.
What is our Syn Wagon
Thanks
tag?
for hopping on the Syn Wagon
Yeah,
or
something like that.
We got to come up with one. Send us some ideas.
Yeah, if you have any ideas.
Thanks for jumping in the Syn Wagon.
Let us know. Jump in. Big splash. Sit around with us. Thanks for sitting with us. That's
Thanks for sitting with us.
Thanks for sitting with us. I am into
That's
it.
awesome.
Thanks for sitting with us. Bye.
Bye.